Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to the wrong side because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
We start with the latest in the government shutdown. No signs yet of a compromise between Democrats and Republicans to end the stalemate. We are starting to see consequences. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce is here with that story. Good morning, Mary.
Hey, George, good morning. Well, 1 week into this shutdown, millions of federal workers hanging in the balance, and we are no closer to a deal to reopen the government. In fact, the parties aren't even negotiating. The president yesterday, though, said he's willing to work with Democrats on health care, the issue at the heart of all of this, suggesting talks were underway, but Democratic leaders were quick to point out that's not true, that negotiations aren't actually happening. Trump then walking that back, saying he's willing to work with Democrats only after they reopen the government. Democrats are standing firm, refusing to fund the government unless Republicans agree to repeal Medicaid cuts and extend those health care subsidies to prevent insurance premiums from rising for millions of Americans. But Republicans aren't budging. They're accusing Democrats of holding the government hostage. Now, a fifth vote failed last night. The House isn't even in session, even though lawmakers are still collecting their paychecks when federal employees aren't. The Senate is expected to vote again today, but there's no indication that the outcome will be any different. Instead, this shutdown now stretching into a second week, guys.
Yeah, it looks like no end in sight.
Yeah, they're right. There is no end in sight. Today's date, October 8th, 2025, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan on the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we do get started, guys, let you know that we do pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means we only cite from reputable sources. With award-winning journalism, we do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, the Daily Beast, where we extreme left, extreme right reviews. We simply don't do that. At the same time, guys, we do try to watch our professionalism and try not to use as many cuss words, but let's be honest, birds do fly. At the same time, guys, we do show a lot of material that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. Yep. Not to quote, it's been 1 week by Bare Naked Ladies, but yeah, it's been 1 week and the government's still shut down. And it happened under Taco. It is amazing to me that this is the second time under this idiotic presidency that we've had a government shutdown. And at the same time, could have been prevented. But it's not like, and also I do need to remind people about how government shutdowns work. Politicians, Republicans, senators, representatives and senators and those in the executive office, don't worry about them. They all still get paid. And yet, federal workers, contractors, those that work in parks and recreation, those that work in government-sponsored libraries, and even those as air traffic controllers, considered essential work, are now working without a paycheck. Especially if you're an air traffic controller, you are demanded that you come in and essentially work for free. Oh, but on the back end, if the government ever gets reopened, you get all your back pay back. That's something I've never understood. And still don't. Why in the Constitution that in the event of a shutdown, do representatives and senators still get paid? These are the very same people that make decisions in this country. They're the very same people that decide on how the government should be run, how much of a budget the government gets. At the same time, cannot see eye to eye, which I don't expect them to under Taco's presidency, to make things work, or at least to do a budget. And again, like I said before, if you work in the airlines or you're an air traffic controller, I just wonder how this shutdown has affected air travel, because I'm pretty sure as a person that doesn't fly, but for everyone else, I can imagine it's kind of a nightmare right now.
Far from Washington, the government shutdown is now rippling into air traffic control towers in Newark, in Denver, and in Phoenix. Long delays due to staffing yesterday, according to the FAA. In Burbank, the air traffic control tower left completely unmanned overnight for roughly 6 hours.
We're beginning closing down the tower. Is it because of the shutdown that you guys are going? It's for staffing. Burbank Tower is closed.
Controllers in San Diego took over for Burbank, but the delays remained. California Governor Gavin Newsom blaming the president online, while in Washington, partisan fighting continues, with Republicans blaming Democrats for the shutdown.
The Democrats are the ones that started this.
As workers across the federal government, including air traffic controllers, go without pay. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says there's been a slight uptick of sick calls, resulting in flight delays.
If we have additional sick calls, we will reduce the flow consistent with a rate that's safe for the American people.
Duffy says he's heard from workers about their concerns.
They have bills they have to pay. So now they're thinking about that at the same time that they're controlling the airspace.
The National Air Traffic Controllers Union calls the ongoing crisis the latest example of how fragile the system is in the midst of a national controller shortage.
We do not have time to waste on the unnecessary distractions created by this shutdown. So our message is clear: end the shutdown.
The union says it's working with the FAA to mitigate disruptions, but the concern this morning, this could get worse, with the busy holiday travel season now just over a month away. If this all sounds eerily familiar, back in 2019, during the last government shutdown, you may recall after controllers missed one paycheck, then two paychecks, many started calling out sick because of the stress. That put pressure on the system. And that is ultimately what many believe led to President Trump calling off the government shutdown. That was back in 2019. We'll see whether missed paychecks will play a role also in this shutdown. You guys?
Of course, missed paychecks will play a role, because no matter how you look at it, the bills are still going to come. I mean, you can sit there and say, I'm not going to work, or I'm going to call out sick, but the bills are still going to come. And as I've said before multiple times on this show, a lot of us are just one or two paychecks away from being out in the street. But it's amazing to me that it's how the government shutdown is affecting a lot of things. And like you said, the airline industry, especially people trying to get on flights, especially here in Nashville, BNA has already grounded flights up until a certain time, all flights. Why? Because air traffic controllers got to figure out another way to make money. But the crazy part is it all goes back. And again, with everything happening between air traffic controllers, those that work in parks, libraries, and other government buildings that are not getting paid, why is it? And I don't stress this enough. Why is it that representatives and senators and those in the executive branch are still getting paid? And here's my thing. If you are still getting paid in the midst of a shutdown that you and your party may have occurred, and you guys are still getting financially secured, I find it very hard to believe that you are working your hardest to basically solve the problem. It's a little hard to believe, because you're fine. It's the rest of the country, those that work in these essential areas, that have these problems. And again, it just goes to show you that the whole problem time with the government, which we'll get into momentarily right now, because you really have two parties that are sticking on one subject, and it's healthcare. However, if you've heard on Fox News, and you've probably heard everywhere else, that Republicans have touted this BS myth that illegal immigrants are getting healthcare. So hopefully this next video will finally debunk all this and say the real reason. And it's simply put, Republicans don't care.
All this talk of this big sticking point here, specifically on healthcare. Give me 4 minutes. We're going to go through. It's a reality check. You've heard a lot of claims here. So let's break it down. Okay, big picture. Let's start with something that affects 24 million Americans, and that's Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. Same thing. 24 million people use Obamacare for their health care. Most of them, the vast majority, get these special tax credits, right? These tax credits that they're eligible for that help lower their premiums. Those credits are going to go away at the end of this year. They're supposed to expire at the end of this year. And that's the chart you're looking at. The end of this year, let's say somebody pays on average $888, it'll go up to $1,900 next year. So part of the shutdown is this. Democrats say, we got to figure this out. We got to negotiate. We can't let that happen. Republicans say, okay, but let's open the government and then negotiate on extending it or not, or tweaking it or whatever. We'll figure that out in October or November. Democrats say, no, the moment has to be now. They don't really buy that Republicans will negotiate. They see this as their best chance for leverage here. They say, we don't have time to wait because people are planning now. The marketplace is open in a month. They're worried people are going to get notices about insurance spiking and drop coverage, et cetera. Okay, so that's one piece of this, right? This discussion over healthcare relates to these ACA, you'll hear them called subsidies or tax credits or whatever. That's one piece. Here's the other piece of this, and you've heard this a lot. You've heard this over and over again from Republicans. They say Democrats want to give free health care to undocumented immigrants. You heard the vice president say it right at the top of the show. A new ad out from Republicans today says basically that. Watch.
Democrats are grinding America to a halt in order to give illegal immigrants free health care.
Democrats say that is not at all true.
That is a bold-faced lie, and it really shows how desperate they are.
Okay, so what is the reality here? Start with this. Undocumented immigrants who come across the border, who've been flagged for deportation, they cannot get Medicaid. They cannot get Obamacare. They can't get on the Affordable Care Act. That is not legal. Democrats are not trying to change that. Democrats are trying to restore access to certain federal health care money for a group of people from whom Republicans stripped it from earlier this year. This is a group of people, about 1.4 million people considered lawfully present. Let me say that again because you're going to hear it. Lawfully present. This is kind of like this fuzzy area here, and it's critical to this whole thing, to this whole discussion. So with that, let's bring in Sahil Kapoor. Sahil, let's talk about this semi-gray area, right? Lawfully present people. They're not technically considered, legal immigrants. They're also not truly undocumented, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. The key thing to know is these are people the U.S. government says are allowed to be here in the country, at least for now. They're not undocumented. They are, in fact, very documented. The government has their papers. They know who they are. These are people who, in most cases, are trying to go through the legal process of becoming lawful permanent residents and eventually citizens. Take a look at this graphic in terms of who we're talking about here. A total of 1.4 million people who are considered lawfully present, people like refugees and asylees, people on temporary protected status or TPS, DACA recipients. These are, again, people the government has said are allowed to stay in the country, perhaps have work permits for now. They're not subject to deportation orders. The Republican argument sort of conjures this image of people who are storming over the border and immediately signing up for Medicaid or Obamacare. That is not how any of this works. That is not what Democrats are trying to allow. That is not what current law does allow. All the way going back to 1996, a law signed by Bill Clinton prohibits any federally funded health care benefits from going to people in this country illegally. Democrats are not trying to change that. What they are trying to do is reverse a piece of President Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill that would take away health care eligibility for those 1.4 million people who are, again, lawfully present in the country.
Okay, but then explain this, because the White House is tweeting out a section of the bill, because they've said, the Republicans have said this. Look, it's in the text. It's in the text of the bill of what Democrats are proposing. And there's this section that says, it says alien Medicaid eligibility. What's that about?
Yeah, that is a section that outlines that exact restriction, Hallie. Alien, by the way, is just the legal term for non-citizen. What they're doing, what they're talking about there is not people in the country illegally. They're talking about the new categories of lawfully present immigrants that they would exclude from health care coverage. So at the end of the day, it's the same argument. It's part of that so-called big, beautiful bill, the health care section. Democrats are trying to repeal the entire healthcare section because that's the part that includes $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts, which Democrats are insisting on getting rid of as core to their.
So long story short, that they're trying to basically say, well, because of lawfully present, which just means that they are just there as far as being in the country, that entitles them to health care. Even the press secretary, whose cross, I'm surprised, has not burned into her skin yet, Catherine Levy tried to sit there and say, oh, well, last 2024 there was $9 billion that was put toward hospital use for illegal immigrants, and now it's just like, so wait, so your big thing is that, oh, well, illegal immigrants went to the hospital to get care, and I'm just like, well, doctors have this thing called the Hippocratic Oath, don't do no harm. And what are we expecting hospitals to do? Hospitals, especially ERs, don't turn away people. They treat them, they care for them, because preservation of life is, kind of paramount in an emergency room. So even if legal immigrants do go to emergency rooms, what do we expect? What is Taco and them expecting us to do? Turn away folks? Oh, you're not an American citizen. You don't get care. You can go bleed out in the living room. You can go bleed out in the waiting room. No hospital in their right mind is going to do that. They are going to give them adequate care, just as they would give anybody care, regardless of insurance coverage or not. So that whole thing about, well, that's $9 billion that could have went where? It went exactly where it's supposed to go. At the same time, no illegal and no non-U.S. citizen is getting free health care. They're not. They're not getting Medicare. They're not getting Medicaid. There's never been a history of it. There's never been a record of it. I'll tell you what these illegal immigrants have done. They have actually paid more into taxes. Yeah, they've paid into taxes. They don't get any healthcare coverage whatsoever, but they've paid into the U.S. tax system, paying taxes. So it didn't. So for all those that are wondering, Uncle Sam didn't care when you're paying taxes. At the same time, I don't think he's going to really bat an eye if you go to the ER for medical aid. But that's what the Republicans sit on. But the Democrats, we've been saying, I know I've been saying it, other people on other podcasts have been saying it. They need to dig their heels in and say, nah, this is it. And only because what's going on, and they're trying to repeal Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, in which doing so would raise people's premiums up overnight. So there's a reason why the Democrats are, finally sitting there saying we got to dig in, because if we allow this to happen, then people are going to be it's going to be pre-ACA all over again, where insurance was hard to get. If you have pre-existing conditions, you probably paid more. You didn't have any coverage at all, and you just had to use the ER as the only place you can actually get medical aid. And we don't want to go back to that, because a lot of people's lives may have been saved because of Obamacare. So that's the big thing with what's going on right now. Democrats want to make sure that Americans stay covered. Republicans are like, oh, we can talk about that, but we need to reopen the government first. Nah, we need to go and talk about it now. So I like the fact that the Democrats have sat there and said, nope, we're going to talk about this now, or it's going to be your fault. And let's also keep in mind, Taco also sat there and said, when he wasn't president, that if a government shutdown happens, the blame was with the president. It's amazing how Taco is a first for a lot of things. To be indicted twice, to be a felon with a 43 federal indictment count, to be guilty of mortgage fraud, to be found guilty of being a sexual predator and pervert, and at the same time responsible for this shutdown, because his own words have come to bite him in the ass. But moving right along, guys, this story was interesting because, keep in mind, this is about a judge in South Carolina that basically blocked National Guardsmen from coming into the state, as Trump has been trying to do for the longest time. But what's weird about this story is, after this judge had halted it, her house burned down. Just saying.
You can hear the thing burning.
Tonight, the cause of this massive blaze that destroyed the home of a South Carolina judge is under investigation. The house in Edisto Beach, an hour from Charleston, went up in flames on Saturday. Crews from several fire departments raced to get it under control.
We saw the black smoke and knew that was a house, but I didn't know if it was something that was spreading down here or further up, or if it was isolated.
Fire officials say 3 people escaped through an elevated first-floor window.
That house sat inside a gated community here, and as you can see, it is surrounded by marshland. Those 3 people who escaped the fire had to be rescued by kayak and canoe.
One survivor was airlifted to a Charleston hospital. The home is owned by Circuit Court Judge Diane Goodstein and her husband, a former Democratic state senator. Judge Goodstein was recently involved in a high-profile ruling temporarily blocking South Carolina from turning over voter information to the Department of Justice. State investigators haven't said how the fire started, but late today released a statement saying, in part, at this time there is no evidence to indicate the fire was intentionally set. Still, earlier today, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham expressed concerns about political violence.
No matter what your beefs are, violence is an unacceptable response to political differences. So if it is arson, I hope they find them and put them in jail.
Tonight, a local official telling NBC News the state law enforcement division took over the fire investigation at the request of the homeowner. The agency says it will share more information when the investigation concludes. Aaron Gilchrist.
So I apologize. This was actually the judge that actually blocked voter information from being released, not National Guard troops. So again, my apologies. I was thinking of Chicago, but this is the same judge that prevented it. And like I said, Circuit Court Judge Diane Goodstein. And after this judge had made this ruling, days later, her house is on fire. Now, I don't want to play conspiracy theorist. That's not what we do here. I'm just saying that the timing of it all is very convenient, especially with the hyper-violent nature that Taco has introduced into our society. He's pretty much gave the green light to a lot of people with very dark intentions to do some very bad things. And again, I'm not saying this is all related. I'm just saying how convenient it is. That's all I'm pointing out. But speaking of things to point out, I just wonder why in the world are we having Senate hearings for any of Taco's administration? They cannot give straight answers. They're too busy kissing Taco's ass. At the same time, ducking and dodging questions like a paternity suit in the NBA All-Star Weekend. That being said, let's introduce the latest lapdog, Attorney General Pam Bondi, as she answers nothing.
Two main goals: to end the weaponization of justice and return the department to its core mission of fighting violent crime. As to ending the weaponization of justice, we learned that former FBI secretly investigated you and your colleagues. Why? They wanted to take President Trump off the playing field. They were playing politics with law enforcement powers and will go down as a historic betrayal of public trust. This is the kind of conduct that shatters the American people's faith in our law enforcement system.
The word is, and I think it's been confirmed by the White House, they are going to transfer Texas National Guard units to the state of Illinois. What's the rationale for that?
Yeah, Chairman, as you shut down the government, you voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here, our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And currently, the National Guard are on the way to Chicago. If you're not going to protect your citizens, President Trump will.
Been on this committee for more than 20 years. That's the kind of testimony you expect from this administration. A simple question as to whether or not they had a legal rationale for deploying National Guard troops becomes grounds for a personal attack.
Can you tell me why my phone records, when I'm the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, were sought by the Jack Smith agents? Why did they ask to know who I called and what I was doing from January 4th to the 7th? Can you tell me that?
No, Senator, and there were 8 senators in total.
Do you think that was an abuse of power?
Senator, I cannot discuss whether there is or is not an ongoing investigation. If I may add one thing, they also wasted $50 million on what you just described, trying to put President Trump in jail prior to the election.
What became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI delivered, evidently in a paper bag, to Mr. Homan?
Senator, I'd look at your facts.
Are you saying that they did not deliver $50,000 in cash to Mr. Homan?
Senator, as recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full
A different
review
question.
by the FBI agents,
That's a
by
different
Department
question.
of Justice prosecutors. They found no evidence of wrongdoing.
That's a different question. What became of the $50,000? Did the FBI get it back?
Mr. Whitehouse, excuse me, Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to talk to the FBI.
The report to you, can't you answer this question?
Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to discuss this with Director Patel.
Did Homan keep the $50,000?
As Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche recently stated, the investigation of Mr.
Never mind.
Homan
I can
was
see I'm not going to get a straight
full
answer from you
review
to a very
by
simple
the
question.
FBI agents and the DOJ.
Do
They
you
found
know-
no credible evidence of wrongdoing. You know, you're very concerned about money and people taking money, and
Do
you
you
rail
know-
against
wait a
dark
second,
money.
wait a second, wait a
Yet you
second,
work with dark
wait a
money
second.
groups all the time, Senator
Wait a
Whitehouse.
second. Did you know whether or not in that investigation they looked at whether the 2024 $50,000 payment to Mr. Homan was declared by him on his tax returns?
Senator, I would be more concerned if I were you when you talk about corruption and money that when you pushed for legislation that would subsidize your wife's company.
The questions here are actually pretty specific. So having you respond with completely irrelevant far-right internet talking points really is not very helpful here. Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Yet you're grilling me on President Trump and some photograph with Epstein? Come on. I took office with two main goals.
Says a lot, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Doesn't answer one question, but too busy being Trump's cheerleader, too busy, pointing accusations, and they're very simple questions. Very simple. Why did the board czar Tom Hoonan take $50,000 in a sting from undercover FBI agents? Well, I'm not going to answer. Well, there's no need to answer that. Oh, well, what about the Epstein files? Well, I told you those files didn't exist, and then you lied. Oh, but let me point out the fact of all you guys, the fact that you're dealing with Epstein too. Why is it that whenever it comes to anybody from Taco's cabinet, they cannot give a straight answer? They can't. And I don't know why they can't, but it's just they're touting the company line very, very, very succinctly. And at the same time, expecting Pam Bondi to be exactly what she said in her opening speech, that the Department of Justice was weaponized against Taco, not true. Because if you think about it, Taco has been the recipient of a lot of things that he really got a break on. For example, his cases. A lot of his cases outside the Manhattan one were all pushed back. Even the one that really could have disqualified him from being president, the Georgia election county interference case, the one where DA Fannie Willis at the time was all but ready to prosecute him, but he had that case pushed back because he said, I am running a campaign and this will hurt it, which I'm surprised that excuse actually flew. And again, the whole improper relationship with Willis and her prosecutor and the whole case behind that. And then at that time, the clock had ran out. Taco became president. So all of his court cases that didn't get to reach a verdict, well, they got pushed back. Even the one I'm talking about now, to where, especially in Georgia, where DA Fannie Willis has tried to appeal it because she was removed as the prosecutor for that case, and she tried to appeal it, and it was denied. Ladies and gentlemen, what you are seeing is that Taco has successfully buried a possible court case that not only could have disqualified him from being president, but could have actually came with jail time for election interference tampering.
Court of Appeals disqualifying Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis from her prosecution of President-elect Trump and his co-defendants in the election interference case tied to events after the 2020 election. However, the indictment against Trump still stands. Executive editorial producer John Santucci joins me now for more. So,
you can't make this up.
You can't make this stuff up. You walked in and said, I've got another bit of breaking news for you.
Yeah.
What's the latest
on it? This is my Christmas gift to you.
Yeah,
clearly.
thanks.
So no problem. But listen, this is really remarkable. So let's bring everybody's minds back to months ago, right? Fulton County, Georgia. Remember that cannot miss TV of Fani Willis, the DA there, and her chief deputy, Nathan Wade, who she had a romantic relationship among some period of time, testifying about that relationship because Donald Trump and his defense team, along with the other 18 defendants in that case, all said, wait a second. you cannot have this relationship. They were, putting Nathan Wade on the books. He was a special assistant district attorney. This is all improper. So what happened in the original court ruling is that the judge basically gave DA Willis an option, said, look, Nathan Wade's got to go, or you and your office have to go. What happened? She made a decision. She got rid of Nathan Wade. Trump's team turned around and said, not good enough.
Right.
We want you all to go. The Court of Appeals took up that case. The Court of Appeals has now ruled. And what the court has said, Phil, in their ruling is that there was no other option but to disqualify the district attorney to restore public confidence. Now, process-wise, what does that mean?
Right.
That means that the DA and the DA's office, the Fulton County District Attorney's office, is completely removed from this case. Does not mean the case goes away. Georgia has a policy that when this happens, basically goes to a board of other DAs, and they decide on another office in the counties around Fulton that would pick it up. So another district attorney would then take the case. But Fani Willis, who campaigned on this, who said that, she was going to make it her mission to, get Donald Trump for what she said he did in Fulton County, trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election, completely removed.
Look,
it is a stunning victory.
If I remember
Donald
correctly,
Trump.
that was a problem too. She campaigned on the issue,
100,
and they brought that up to her.
100%, and it only fueled the defense's argument here.
So let me just ask you, because there are people who pled guilty, who pleaded guilty already. What happens to them?
It really raises a lot of questions on the process now, because basically a new DA will take the case and the new DA would decide what to do. Now, in theory, if you've already made a deal, the deals would hold. But if you're a defendant, you could possibly switch it up. The whole thing could go away. Look at what's happened on the federal level with the Trump cases brought by special counsel Jack Smith, the documents and the 2020 efforts to overturn the election. Both of those have gone up in smoke. So if you're Trump and the other defendants saying, okay, now everybody's thrown off the case. The DA that was running the show just got thrown out of the movie theater. So maybe let's see what happens.
At the very least, raise your hand and say, hey, let's look at this again, right?
Totally.
I mean, that's what's happening.
It is an unbelievable change of events. And again, when you think about what's going on with Donald Trump right now, right? The way that he even said recently, everyone's trying to be my friend. Right. People are coming down to Mar-a-Lago to see him. These cases were the thing that everybody thought would take Donald Trump out. They're just going away.
Well, every time everybody says this is what's going to take Donald Trump out, it doesn't.
Stronger and stronger. It is remarkable.
Yeah. Well, all right, John.
Well, it's only remarkable now because, as we said, he somehow was able to get time because he was running a campaign. And that was his excuse. His excuse was, I'm running a campaign, and therefore I cannot be subjected to a court case where I may have allegedly tried to tamper with voter counts in Georgia. And that's what they've done. And that's what it is. And he is right to a certain point, because the DOJ will never prosecute a sitting president for reasons beyond my comprehension. At the same time, yes, that's exactly what happens. That the board can select another DA. That DA can decide whether or not to move forward with this case. I bet you money the DA they select, at least, if not a few days, a week later, will sit there and basically throw the case out. Probably citing insufficient evidence, bias, whatever you want to call it. I will bet you money that once they do pick a DA to take over Fani Willis's case, they will turn around and throw out the case. And they will cite some BS reference, but I promise you, they will throw out that case, and that's another case that really should have landed Taco in jail. Because it's already happening with Jack Smith when his documentation with what's going on in Mar-a-Lago, because he kept a freaking storage container full of documents he shouldn't have. That case has been put on ice. Like I said, the case in Georgia, that's just on its way to being put on ice. It's almost on its way to being thrown out. The only thing left is the Manhattan DA case, to where there's already a guilty verdict. You know, that he falsified and pumped up his numbers on his business holdings for decades to get bigger loans. Was caught, found guilty of his peers, had a nice sizable amount of fine attached to it, to where a certain DA there is waiting to basically seize his assets. Although we all remember the story, had to get almost $500 million in escrow. He didn't have it. He finally got a bond to sign off on it. Then went to an appeals court, said it was too high. They agreed, it was lowered, but it's still there. He's still a felon. The verdict is not going away. But between Pam Bondi, between the cases that are out there, now that he's the president, and this is why I'm saying this is a problem with the AG. The AG is not supposed to be president friendly. The AG is supposed to basically be nonpartisan. You're not Democrat, you're not Republican. You are the top lawyer in the court. You are the top lawyer in the US. You are supposed to go after everybody, and I do mean everybody. That's your job. But at the same time, Pam Bondi has shown that she is more of a loyalist than an actual AG. So yeah, she's not going to prosecute anything. Which actually, I'm going to tell you, to be honest with you, makes me worry about what these Epstein files are going to do. Because yeah, these files may or may not come out, but will Bondi move forward with prosecuting individuals? Probably not. Because you see how quickly she doesn't want to answer the question about the files that obviously are there. But at the same time, if there was something to come out of this, would she move forward to prosecution? I'll be honest with you, no. Why? We already found out that Trump's name has been mentioned multiple times in Epstein files. We've seen Taco take pictures with Epstein's on multiple occasions. Even talks about a young woman that Epstein allegedly may have took from Mar-a-Lago. And again, all the evidence is there. Will Pam Bondi prosecute? Hell no. Why? Because she has to kiss the ring, because it's that person that's wearing that fat ass ring who apparently is not in the best military shape, no matter what Department of Secretary of Defense Pete always drunk headset says. But she kisses the ring. She kisses the ring. She keeps her job, and that's what she's intending to do. So it just sucks that, again, it is amazing how the wheels of justice, they always complain that the wheels of justice are always against them, yet they run ever so effortlessly for this pendejo. Moving right along, guys, we do want to get to Chicago. Why? Because Taco has a word right now, and it's not acetaminophen. It's not the acetaminophen. I can't say the word now. Thank you, Taco. It's not the word Tylenol that trips him up now that he has a hard-on for. The hard-on word is insurrection, and he's using Chicago and many of the Democratic cities as a reason to invoke this act.
Judge telling the president no troops, issuing an order overnight prohibiting the administration from sending National Guard troops into the city. The Trump appointee, Judge Karen Immergut, saying that the order was based on false claims about violent conditions in Portland. She also says she's troubled by the administration's attempt to circumvent another order that she issued when Trump tried to send troops from California. And it's not just Portland. President Trump says he's sending hundreds of Guard members from Texas to Chicago. It comes after a weekend of clashes between police and protesters. Demonstrations even turning violent at times, with federal agents deploying tear gas, shooting rubber bullets, and making arrests. The governors of Illinois, Oregon, and California telling Trump they won't comply, and now they're suing the administration to block the mobilization of those troops. Let's bring in our White House correspondent, Karen Travers. So what's the latest from the White House, Karen?
Kara, the White House is standing firm and insisting that the president can do this, and they're going to push back on these lawsuits from governors and play this out through the legal process. We heard Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, in the last hour say that the president is, quote, using his authority as commander in chief, and that he has the right to call up the National Guard and bring them in situations where she said he deems it is appropriate. So they're not backing down on this, and they are going to appeal that ruling in the Portland case, where that federal judge said that the administration could not send in troops from any state into Portland. That was the second ruling from that judge. The first one was that the Oregon National Guard could not go in. Then, after the administration said they were going to send in California National Guard troops, then the judge said, no, you can't do this from other states. Over the weekend, that first ruling, Kira, from the federal judge said that the administration was ignoring the facts on the ground, and that the administration's take that the situation in Portland was so violent that it needed a federal military response. The judge said it was untethered to the facts. Well, the White House now is saying that they believe that that judge is, quote, untethered in reality and in the law. And Caroline Leavitt said they will be appealing that second decision.
All right, let's bring in our Alex Perez now there in Chicago. Let's talk about what's happening there, Alex. Apparently the mayor signing this executive order declaring ice-free zones on city property.
Yeah, Kara, the mayor signing that executive order just a few hours ago. And under that order, Kara, ICE is prohibited from carrying out any of their operations on any city property. So that's buildings, schools, parking lots. Obviously, they need staging areas in a lot of instances when they are carrying out some of these operations, and the goal is to prohibit them from doing that. But ICE, in this case, even with that executive order, those federal agents, they remain undeterred here in Chicago. Kira, and I want to give you a look behind me here. The demonstrations and protests have been happening here for weeks in Chicago, and there have been moments where they've become a little more intense. And one of those moments was this weekend where federal agents say a group of people, several vehicles, blocked and rammed into federal vehicles. That situation ended with a federal agent shooting a woman who was, they say, armed. That woman was treated for her injuries and has since now is facing criminal charges, Kara. But that just gives you an idea of how intense the situation can get in some moments. We're here outside the federal building. You can see behind me here, they've put up this fencing here surrounding this perimeter around the building, all in hopes of protecting the building from some of those demonstrations and protesters. Kira.
Yeah, so much going on, Alex.
So what's crazy about all this, y'all, is that, again, Taco believes that he needs the National Guard into Democratic cities to where there's civil unrest. Although in Chicago, numbers are down. Portland, Oregon, numbers are down. California, he just doesn't like Governor Gavin Newsom. That's all that is. But what's so crazy about this is that, which is also the title of our podcast for this week, was that Taco has a hard-on for insurrection. He, I cannot believe I'm going to say this, is trying his hardest to engage the Insurrection Act. If you don't know what this is, let's go to Google, and here's a history lesson.
With some federal agents and protesters clashing in Chicago and Portland, Oregon, President Trump now says he would consider invoking the Insurrection Act to send the military into those cities if the courts block his deployment of National Guard troops.
We have an Insurrection Act for a reason. I do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up.
That federal law that dates back to 1807 gives the president emergency powers to deploy the military to suppress what he deems as a rebellion or civil unrest. Illinois and its Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker is suing to block Trump's plan to send roughly 200 troops to Chicago, the governor calling it an unconstitutional invasion. But a federal judge has, at least for now, declined to stop that deployment.
What Donald Trump, I believe, is trying to do, incite it so they can bring more troops in, invoke the Insurrection Act, and militarize Chicago and other major cities.
The president has also attacked Portland as a burning hellhole that he claims has been overtaken by left-wing domestic terrorists.
Portland is on fire. Portland's been on fire for years.
Targeting the Democratic-led city a day after a federal judge, a Trump nominee, blocked him from sending National Guard troops there.
I think that's all insurrection. I really think that's really criminal insurrection.
Local authorities are forcefully pushing back, saying the chaos is confined to a single downtown city block.
In America, that we don't put the military on our streets unless it's extreme circumstances like an invasion or rebellion. And those things, they just don't exist right now in Oregon.
Just last week, President Trump urged America's top generals to use some of those cities as training grounds for the U.S. military. And as a candidate, flirted with invoking the Insurrection Act to suppress unrest. Some Republican leaders are already embracing the president's efforts. Overnight, Texas's Governor Greg Abbott posted this picture of National Guardsmen from his state heading off to other states like Oregon and Illinois to support the president's crackdown. If President Trump moves forward with the Insurrection Act, those National Guard would be granted the same law enforcement powers as local police. Craig.
And there is so much, except the fact that in the Insurrection Law, or I should say the Insurrection Act, right, as they said, was developed in 1807. When the last time it was used? During the 1992 Los Angeles riots. The last time. It's only been used in 1992 during the LA riots. And now Taco sees it as an opportunity to go, I wonder, could I use this to actually bring in more military, not just National Guard? The Insurrection Act will actually do that. Here's the problem. This is all a part of Project 2025. And I cannot stress this enough. For a guy that says he has no idea what Project 2025 is, he's following the effing playbook. He went after your education. He went after your communications. He went after your networks. Now he's trying to he's trying to use the army to enforce martial law and basically extend his reach into these cities and states that are democratic. I kid you not. This is all out of the 2025 playbook. He even bragged about on Truth Social meeting one of the architects last week for Project 2025. And it amazes me so that as he's trying to do this, thankfully, some Democrats and governors have sat there and dug their feet in and said, no, hell no. Because again, what is the point of you needing to do such things? And that's the part I'm getting to. It's like, what more do you need to do that you're trying to do? And honestly, he wants total control. I'm going to call it what it is. He wants total control. But I will say this, that what's going on with ICE, two things. One is pretty effing funny, and I don't care. It's funny to me. But, you know, Ice Barbie went on Fox News talking about her ICE agents are having a little hard time trying to find food and even bathrooms to use because they're being denied access to by restaurateurs in Chicago. I just thought the shit was funny.
Are much safer. We've got 1,000 criminals that are off the streets of Chicago just because we've been there, not because of his help. And in fact, they don't even let our ICE officers and our Border Patrol officers use restrooms in facilities. Those men and women were telling us that they have to figure out even where they can go sit down for 5 minutes to have lunch or to use a restroom throughout their shift and their break. So they've made it a very difficult situation. But what I was so encouraged by was these officers love their jobs. They love their jobs.
I thought it was funny, which is the fact of the matter is you have ICE agents in Chicago being denied. And I guess someone says, oh, well, that's effing horrible. You know, as a human being, you got to eat, you got to go to the bathroom. But here's the problem. Here's the reason why I say I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad because these ICE agents, as well as these National Guard officers, enlisted National Guard, you guys have a right to refuse orders. You do. There's nothing righteous or justified about occupying an American city and trying to claim that you're trying to make it safer. National Guardsmen are not law enforcement. They're trained for combat. That's what the National Guard is. You are literally trained for deployment and combat. You are not trained for law enforcement, de-escalation, but you are there for crowd control. And if things get sticky, you are going to do what you are trained to do. So the show of force, again, when it comes to ICE agents, again, that's National Guard. Now, ICE agents, again, you are law enforcement. But what I don't get is that if you are in ICE and you disagree with what Taco and Ice Barbie are doing, how is it that you can sit there and put a mask on and literally go after so-called illegal immigrants? But every illegal immigrant you picked up was from a job, was from a location where they were working, but it was never the I'm just here so the government takes care of me kind of stuff. But how can you work it? I mean, even a person would sit there and go, no, I can't be a part of this. There's no way I can serve in this. You would think. But that's why I say I don't feel bad, because at this point, who all serving the ICE and the masked ICE Gestapo, who now have a hard time finding food or a bathroom in Chicago because restaurateurs are using their right to say, I have the right to refuse service to anyone. But you're mad because a city that you swore up and down needed you all of a sudden is showing that they did not need you. And the National Guard, again, a combat deployed unit trying to serve and protect. What could possibly go wrong? Well, I'm going to tell you what's going to go wrong. You might get ignored by the very same police in the very same state you've been sent to help.
And one is for the hit and run. This guy fled from the scene at 37th Place in Kedzie. It all started at I-55 in Kedzie. Then they fled southbound at Kedzie, where that offending vehicle crashed. They ran the federal agent off the road.
Have him hold tight until I give you further direction, please.
If you guys can start heading there as quick as you can, and then just hold tight for instructions with 999.
For the chief of patrol, clear everybody up. We're not responding over there.
Radio check. And again, per the chief of patrol, we have all the units that per 999. Chief of patrol said all units clear out from there. We're not sending anybody over to that location.
A disturbing dispatch call in Chicago where you can hear the dispatcher say that an ICE agent has asked for assistance after a suspect ran a federal agent off the road. Seconds later, the dispatcher tells all units to clear out and not respond. She says, we're not going over there. Joining me now is the former head of the Chicago Police Department and retired FBI Special Agent in Charge, Jody Weiss. Jody, good morning to you. I really want to talk to you about this because you were dumbfounded when you first heard this dispatch call, especially when you hear her say, per the chief of patrol, everybody out. We're not responding over there.
Yeah, I was shocked, Jan. I mean, think about it. Law enforcement agents call for help, and the Chicago Police Department didn't respond to that immediately. Now, to be fair, they did respond 1 hour and 10 minutes later. An hour and 10 minutes later to a call for help. That's just absolutely shocking for me. And the other classic thing I learned earlier this morning was that when they did respond, they were told not to wear their gas masks, not to wear their helmets because they'd be too intimidating. So what happened? They're hit with chemical agents because ICE had to deploy chemical agents for their own safety. So just a complete mess.
Well, and to be fair, there's nothing fair about that. An hour and 10 minutes later is way too late, especially if you're surrounded, right, by protesters and demonstrators. How do you see this playing out?
Well, actually, a couple things. Number one, I think the chief of patrol has to go. I mean, even if he said I didn't know all the facts, that's no excuse. But I also see this playing right into President Trump's hand. You have ICE agents who are unable to enforce federal law. That lines almost verbatim with Title 10, which gives the president the authority to federalize National Guard if federal agents cannot enforce the law. So just a complete mess.
Not only that, you have the Department of Homeland Security right now slamming Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who signed an executive order, Jody, to create ICE-free zones. What is going on in Chicago? ICE-free zones?
Yeah, I mean, this guy's he's just a buffoon. I mean, I guess he's never heard of the Federal Supremacy Clause, but, you know, it's a joke. And Chicago, sadly, has turned into just a joke of a city. It's just a hot mess right now. And I certainly would love to have Mayor Daley back in there who knew how to run a city.
Jody, I want to turn now to the FBI. And
so I'm going to stop it right there because, again, I just wanted to cover the first part to where, and again, I know it's conservative because the guy was read like, oh, I can't believe this mayor. He's an idiot. I wish we had the former mayor back. Yeah, we know where you stand. As stupid as he did sound, he did have one point that Taco will use this as an excuse. This goes back to the Insurrection Act that, yes, you had an ICE agent that was not getting assistance from the Chicago police. But keep in mind, if you, and I don't really defend law enforcement that much. I really do not. Because, again, another story that I have where I'll play momentarily because everybody knows my opinion on law enforcement. That being said, if you see the National Guard coming in and basically saying, we are going to basically look for legal immigrants in your city and you have to comply, I can kind of see a little bit how law enforcement could be spurned by that, where Chicago is saying, we don't need you. You're going to make the situation worse. And I can also see some petty Chicago officers going, oh, you're in trouble? Okay, we'll call your buddies. Don't call us. Call your buddies. Now, would that have been wrong to leave a person there, a nice officer who was in trouble there? I mean, yeah, they did eventually get help an hour later. But damn, if the chief of police says, everybody clear out, we're not going over there. Oof. You must have done something, ICE, to really tick them off to where the chief of police turns around and says, nah, clear on out. We're not surfacing that area. And again, I'm not saying it's not right. I admit at the same time, you kind of create a situation of chaos that you're now being affected by and you want to be bailed out. I'm just saying it's not right, but I understand. But moving right along, guys, like I said, another police story that we do have, because again, this story is all too freaking common with law enforcement, that every person of color does have a police story. We all do. And some at least more than others. That being said, imagine that you're going to go pick your daughter up from the airport, and the next thing you know, you got guns drawn on you because your car matched the description of a person that may or may have not committed a homicide. Even more so, that you may have matched the description. I will let you play I will show in the video what that description or actually the actual person looked like.
7:30 on a Tuesday night in April. That's when Wesley Lisi says he was here at Sky Harbor to pick up his daughter. And what happened next, the pair still can't believe.
Get on the ground, both of you. On the ground. Lay on the ground. What's happening?
Mesa and Phoenix police handcuffing Lisi and his daughter.
Why are you guys arresting us?
Mesa police told Lisi his car matched a description for a homicide suspect at a Mesa apartment about 10 minutes away.
We had eyes on you for a while. Where were you coming from? I'm coming from Scottsdale.
New notices of claim filed this week by civil rights attorney Benjamin Taylor.
Doesn't make any sense why so much force was used here. Here's a picture of the body camera. He's face down. Officers there, they had guns blazing. Doesn't make any sense.
Police telling ABC 15 in April, officers made the decision to detain Lisi, worried a shooting suspect may enter the busy airport. Officers at the airport learning from police at the apartment shooting scene that the suspect there was described by witnesses as a white man, then letting Lisi go. The notice of claim alleges this was the actual suspect.
Ask you to take a look at that. Do you see the resemblance between you and him?
No. And that, it's angering to me. I mean, I don't even have the words. This looks nothing like me.
During the 5 minutes he was in handcuffs, body camera video shows Lisi appearing to keep a composed demeanor.
Jay, calm down, calm down, calm down.
He now says it was an act of self-preservation for himself and his daughter.
If I make a wrong move, that it's over. I'm thinking that we are both dead like that. If I look the wrong way, if I make the wrong sound, if I move, if they think that I'm threatening, it's over.
Mesa police told me they're unable to discuss pending litigation. Lisi's attorney told me if they don't receive a response from Phoenix or Mesa, they'll file suit. Fort Hatchett, ABC.
So again, how many of us have that type of story? Even more so, the guy was just going to literally and figuratively pick up his daughter from the airport, and officers. And I love how they said, well, we've been following you for a while, so we want to know where you're coming from. Well, obviously it's from not where the homicide was. And on top of that, already guns drawn. He's got his daughter with him. He's got guns at him. And I got to give this black man credit. He's a former NFL player, so he knows all about, pressure at a high level and how to manage it. But nobody is ever ready. And I do mean nobody. No one is ever ready for guns drawn in your face by happy trigger finger officers who would love nothing more than for you to give them a reason. And so what does this man do? Very textbook of calm. He instructed his daughter, calm down. Everything's going to be fine. Everything is slow, methodical. And he has to say it, and he says it. It's self-preservation. I have to be calm. Even if I'm handcuffed, I have to be calm. I have to be compliant, because any wrong move, these officers will probably use it as an excuse to harm me or harm my daughter. And on top of that, the piece de resistance is this picture. That this is the suspect. So officers are looking for this man. And I just want to point out, officers looking for this man. And on top of that, somehow getting confused with this. I'm sorry, but it's bullshit. It is. It is bullshit. And I feel for that man. And he should sue. And I've been saying this because every time officers get in trouble, what has it always been? The same. It's always been it happens. I'm sorry. No. You want to stop racial, and again, you won't stop racial profiling, because thanks to Taco and the Supreme Court, they've made it pretty much legal for law enforcement to racially profile. But Do you want to know how you stop it, though? Really stop it? Attack the police pension. Because if I'm that man and I'm that lawyer, don't sue the police department. Sure. Sue the police union. Sue the police department, sue the union, sue everybody on that line. But make sure you include the police union. Why? Because you want to attack the money. The one thing law enforcement officers love to protect more than their guns is their pension. If you attack the money, watch how quickly we have less of these, you fit the descriptions. Watch how quickly we have less of these, you just happen to be in the area. Because it makes no sense. As officers, you guys do have to make on-the-fly decisions. But this had no de-escalation. This had no proper workflow. And at the same time, all you could think about was all you saw, and let's be honest, white officers see a black man, they immediately assume he's a threat. You can argue that all day, you really could, but I'm not wrong. Argue with the wall, because whenever white officers see a black man, he's immediately, in their eyes, he's immediately deemed hostile. And what kills me out of all this is just that another trauma has been added. So yes, don't wait for them to respond. Sue them for all they're worth. Because the only way you're going to change things, especially in this country, is you have to hit the bottom line. Plain and simple. But speaking of things, because we're in America and some folks are freaking idiots, I'm pretty sure by now everybody heard that Bad Bunny is going to be doing the halftime Super Bowl, in which a lot of so-called Americans are pissed off about the fact that a Puerto Rican is doing the Super Bowl. He's not a real American. A simple Google search, because Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. Therefore, Bad Bunny is a citizen. A Google search would have saved you a shitload of humiliation. Well, is the whole thing going to be in Spanish? I hope it is. I hope. Above all else it is. But again, hear it from Bad Bunny because he's looking forward to it. And I just thought this part was funny.
I'm doing the Super Bowl halftime show. I'm very happy. And I think everyone is happy about it. Even Fox News.
Bad Bunny is my favorite musician, and he should be the next president.
Todos los latinos y las latinas en el mundo entero y aquí en los Estados Unidos, todas las personas que han trabajado para abrir puertas, más que un logro mío, es un logro de todos, demostrando que nuestra huella y nuestra aportación en este país nadie nunca la podrá sacar ni borrar. If you didn't understand what I just said, you have 4 months to learn.
And what's so crazy about this? Duolingo. As Bad Bunny said, hey, you got 4 months to learn Spanish. Here's 4 months of Duolingo service on me. And I will be the first person to say it. Everybody should learn a different language. That's my thing. We should be bilingual. We should learn Spanish and Portuguese, and Swahili and other. I can keep going down the list. They're all beautiful languages out there. And I think as Americans, we should learn them at the same way they learn English. That being said, about Bad Bunny is just that, number one, I hope it is a great thing to actually see diversity, because people kill me when they sit there and go, oh, well, that's not real diversity. We could have got Kid Rock. We could have got Kid Rock. Really? You could have got Kid Rock. A guy that shot a case of Budweiser because Budweiser had a trans person for their spokesperson and he lost his shit. Oh, what about Jason Aldean? Yeah, try that in a small town where the video was the film in front of in front of a courthouse where a black man was accused of something he didn't do, got lynched by a white crowd. Yeah, his Dirt Road anthem got him Waffle House fame. That's all he's got. We just needed somebody that's gonna heal this nation. No, you want to see somebody that looks like you, because God forbid you don't want Kendrick Lamar to come back. God forbid you don't want Dre and Snoop to come back. God forbid you won't want Lady Gaga to come back. God forbid that you don't want anyone that doesn't fit your America. That's the ones you don't want to come back. But at the same time, Bad Bunny is, again, he's an American citizen. At the same time, I hope the whole thing's in Spanish. And like I said, you got 4 months. I hear Duolingo, Rosetta Stone, and even Sesame Street can help out in these situations. Get cracking, you white nationalist people. I was going to say something else, but I'm going to stick with people. But again, I'm not knocking it, but I hope your SAP button is destroyed and the English translator is doing their arms like this the entire time. So either learn Spanish or, go ahead and put it on mute like you watch the anchors on Fox News, especially the women. You twisted pervert, Fox News perverts know who you are. That being said, folks, next story we got, guys, a couple more stories we get to our feel good segment. This one's a little creepy because you guys don't remember the shooter of the Michigan church family, because there have been many other GoFundMes that have been put out. This one is the GoFundMe for the family of the shooter. I wish I could make this up.
The organizer of this fundraiser told me around 5,000 people have donated to the cause. He told me he sincerely hopes that this money can help the Sanford family heal.
Yes. Okay, cool.
Those familiar with Dave Butler may have seen him on podcasts
I'm on to talk about Bible and ancient scripture and Book of Mormon.
or read his books. The lifelong member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was heartbroken to see what happened to the chapel in Grand Blanc, Michigan.
What a terrible thing to be the family members of people who were killed, who were shot.
He saw fundraisers for those victims, but noticed there were none set up for the family of the man police say committed the deadly acts.
From what we understand about Thomas Sanford, he seems to have hated Mormons.
Butler says despite growing evidence of Sanford's beliefs and opinions,
Every human being, every child of God is worth taking concern over.
he set up an online fundraiser for Sanford's wife and children. It quickly took off.
I just hope that the money will be able to help get them through whatever they have coming their way. And
Mark Hallaker, who's also a church member, donated to the cause.
you're suffering for something that your husband did. Let's help you.
In only a couple of days, more than $200,000 was raised.
We're not trying to say, oh, look how good I am, but it's just genuinely, there's love here.
Butler shared this Bible verse with the fundraiser.
To visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction.
His faith compelled him to help the Sanfords, but he points out many people who aren't LDS also donated. He says he's grateful to all of them for stepping up for a family they don't know.
It's transformed at least some of this awful experience from trauma and wonder and anger to forgiveness and peacemaking.
Butler told me he plans to keep the fundraiser open for at least a few more days. He says he is in touch with the Sanford family and he hopes to speak with Sanford's wife soon.
When I tell you the crock of crap, because it's the shooter's family, the family that, okay, I know more than likely the family had nothing to do with the shooter that attacked the church, right? Here's the problem I have with this, that you're basically saying, you're basically forgiving the shooter. Oh, well, his family is gonna suffer. Well, that was the consequence of his decision. His family, I mean, the only thing that kills me is that every time that something is done, oh, we quote religion. Religion is like it's almost like the Clorox of just human actions. Oh, we'll spray some religion on it, it'll be fine. But what's more messed up about it, this was done on Give, Sing, Go, to which I am not going to post a link for this crap because I am not going to give that thing any more attention than what it already has. But it's on Give, Sing, Go. And in my opinion, Give, Sing, Go is basically a GoFundMe for hypocrites, racist, bigots. It is. Because on that Give, Sing, Go, that story we just covered is already over $295,000. 7,000 people gave almost $300,000 to this family who's the shooter, mind you, ended the lives of people at this church. And it's Give Send Go. So it's not like GoFundMe or anything else. Give Send Go is a supposedly Christian organization, to which they're like, well, again, the reason why I bring this up, because we covered this story. We covered Give Send Go on another story about a couple of months ago, where a woman was playing in the park and called a black child the N-word, and she lost her job because it went viral. But she started a campaign on Give Send Go saying that her family's lives were in danger. And you guys remember me saying at the time of that podcast, she got well over 600K. 600K is life-changing money, no doubt about that. But it is amazing to me that the same site that allowed a GoFundMe for a racist white heifer to call a black child the N-word, and now because she claims her family was in danger and that she needed to pay for security, got 600K. In the same sense, the family of this shooter that decided to take the lives out of a Latter-day Saints church are could be $300,000 richer, only because they wanted to spray religion on it and say, well, someone's got to think about that family. Well, the shooter didn't, so why should we? That's just being honest. And the last story I got, guys, before we get to our feel-good segment, is the fact of I told you guys what was happening at CBS. I told you that CBS/Skydance was wanting to basically curry favor with Taco. They got rid of the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. They basically fine-tuned the Video Music Awards. And now they have a new editor-in-chief at Fox News Lite, although also known as CBS News. They have a new editor, and it's exactly what Taco asked for. Well, almost.
A major shift in the landscape of TV news. Paramount Skydance announcing that they've made Barry Weiss editor-in-chief of CBS News and acquired her online news and commentary organization, The Free Press. Weiss, who attended Columbia University, is a Pittsburgh native who now lives in New York. The Wall Street Journal writing she's known for her outspoken support of Israel and strong takes on polarizing topics, including gun rights, diversity, and inclusion programs, American higher education, and President Trump. She's a registered independent who at one point called herself politically homeless, unrepresented by the two main U.S. parties. Joining me tonight to break this down and what this appointment means is Oliver Darcy. He's a media reporter and author of the Status newsletter, and GOP strategist Matt Gorman. We thank you both for being here. Oliver, this is your bread and butter. I'm going to start with you, right? Barry Weiss has very little experience in broadcast TV. She's now working with CBS News President Tom Sabrowski, who I do want to say I've worked with in the past and who is a great news manager. He has a long pedigree in broadcast news. Who's actually going to be calling the shots here?
I think that remains to be seen, but Barry Weiss is taking a very prominent editorial role. She's going to be editor-in-chief, which suggests that all of the editorial will ultimately report to her. And I think if you're a CBS News journalist, you are at the very least anxious today, given what Barry Weiss stands for. I mean, she is someone, as you referred to there, as has taken a lot of polarizing views, to say the least. She's anti-woke, anti-DEI. She said today that the far left loathes America, which is quite the statement for someone who's editor-in-chief of CBS News to make. And so the question remains to be seen, how involved is she going to be? Is she going to be at 60 Minutes going over the editorial on a weekly basis, or is she going to be leading from further away? And we don't know that, and CBS News journalists still don't know that, and I think that's causing, at the very least, some unease tonight.
Yeah, you know, Matt, I want to ask you, I mean, you're somebody who you appear on nearly every broadcast network that I know of. You appear on cable as well. You're somebody who's well-versed in this industry as well. You're also somebody who works for the right. What is your take on all this?
A couple things. First of all, they needed to shake things up at CBS, right? They've been perennially in third place for much of their trademark newscast, whether it's evening news or the morning show, for a long time. They've also had a lot of churn before Tom, as you mentioned, at the top of their news division, as well as their anchor desks on several other programs. So they needed to do something differently, I think, to bring some advertising revenue in and bring some buzz in, candidly. And look, I don't know Barry, but she's built a successful project after the Free Press after leaving the New York Times opinion page. I think the other thing is to look, there's been a thaw among CBS News and Republicans, right? And look, no good news organization can function if they don't have the trust, let's be honest, of both major political parties who are willing to talk on their air. I think this could help provide a reset for my party and CBS News as well.
Oliver, is this an attempt by CBS News and their new owners, maybe in their view? I'm not saying this is my view or the view of the people that watch, the millions that watch CBS News every night, to make CBS News more down the middle, or do you think this is a conscious move to the right?
I think either way you look at that, whether they're saying it's to be, down the middle and more fair, or it's, to the right, I think it's the same effect, which is to be more sympathetic to conservatism, or to, I wouldn't even call it conservatism, to the MAGA movement. And
why do you say that? There is a difference there. Why do you say that, Oliver?
Yeah, I mean, I think traditionally conservatives would stand at odds with a number of things that Donald Trump promotes. For instance, free trade. Traditionally, conservatives have been very pro-free trade. This president is very isolationist. And then there are a number of issues that this president has really, re-engineered the Republican Party to be in favor of that, 10 years ago, conservatives would have been against. For instance, conservatives were the ones that got us into the Iraq War, and this president says he's against it and anti-interventionalist. So there are two separate movements there. But I think that Barry is certainly going to be pushing a number of things that people on the right like. She's not necessarily a MAGA media personality, but people in that movement like that she's anti-DEI, anti-woke, very pro-Israel. And while she does criticize the president at some times, I think if you were to read the Free Press, those issues that I just outlined would be what you would take away as the great threat to American civilization or Western civilization, not the creeping autocracy that we're seeing from this president as he assaults things like free speech, the rule of law, et cetera.
Matt, I'm going to let you weigh in on that.
Yeah, look, I think if you're reading Donald Trump into a media merger, I think it's a little bit too much into this. Look, what I'm very interested in, candidly, is, look, there's been rumors that Skydance, who now owns CBS, might take a vested interest or try and buy CNN, right? So not only would they control CBS, they would control a major news network that, let's be honest, CNN is not, often hospitable to the right. And so we will see if that happens. And again, I think necessary, whether we like it or not, 50% of this country voted for Donald Trump. And I think having a little bit more ideological diversity in many newsrooms across the country is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Ensuring that we have objective journalism.
I got one for each of you. Matt, I'm going to ask you, if someone is watching Fox News and CBS does move to the right in some capacity, does a Fox News viewer, loyal Fox News viewer, do they go watch CBS News? Do you think that actually happens?
I think the Fox News viewer and the cable news viewer in general, I think, is very different than someone who casually watches broadcast news. I think they're quite different. Cable news, wherever you are, they're far more habitual watchers. They tend to leave it on all day.
So, Oliver, my last question to you. We don't know how this is going to play out, right? But how do you think they will measure success over there at that company now? Is it ratings? Is it how their CEO, David Ellison, feels? What's their metric?
I'm not really actually sure what their metric is. I mean, I guess you could say ratings might be part of it. I think that the idea, though, I mean, David Ellison talked about this today. He said that he wants CBS News to speak to all of America. Every news organization wants to speak to all of America. They're not trying to speak to half of the country. They want to appeal to as many people as possible. They want to be trusted by as many people as possible. The issue right now is that when you have a president who lies, who shatters norms, and when you cover that from a factual basis, when you just fact check this president and his administration, that alienates his audience. And he's a very thin-skinned man, as we know, and he attacks the news organizations. And so, I think CNN is perfectly hospitable to having fact-based conservatives come on the air. I don't think, actually, I guess they are to some extent hospitable with dishonest MAGA personalities. They have them on the air too these days. But I think the issue really is that when you have someone going on the air and misleading an audience, news networks typically are not hospitable to that, regardless of political party. It happens a lot more from one political party right now. And the question is, how do you appeal to the entire country when you have a political party that is frankly, peddling a lot of lies, a lot of dishonesty to the American people. That is the question for CBS News. And frankly, it's a question for all news networks in this very polarizing age.
Yeah, and we're going to leave it there.
Well, I'll tell you how you solve that problem. You solve that problem, simply put, by actually doing journalism, by actually introducing facts, by remaining, you're not left, you're not right, you produce the facts. We used to have news stations like that. We did. We used to have news stations that just report the facts. They did not take one particular side. They simply reported the facts as they were and allow people to make up their own minds. The same thing that we do here. Although I have sat there and I have made no love loss about Republicans, MAGAs, tacos, and the entire administration. I know I have definitely made my disdain for them known. But the problem with CBS is you have now installed a person whose job is to basically cause discord. This is the reason why Taco, number one, sued 60 Minutes. He sued 60 Minutes for a clip piece on former Madam VP Harris, and he wasn't even a part of it. He sued, but the CEO at Skydance Paramount was like, no, I need, this is before Skydance, mind you. So the Paramount CEO was like, no, I need Skydance to go through. What do you need? Oh, we'll cave. So what they do, CBS caved. CBS caved in the lawsuit, paid Taco, his administration, something. I forgot the amount. And then what happens next? Stephen Colbert, his show gets canceled. The former editor at 60 Minutes has retired. He has left his post. And now you've not only installed a Taco S monitor, you've now installed 2 Taco S monitors. Oh, but she's independent. She has her own thoughts of DEI and things of that nature. She's there for disruption. She is not there for information. She's there for disruption. That's why I call CBS News, and I hate to say this, because CBS used to be very good, still is very good until, we see the change, because we see it happening at CNN already. CNN has already started to, welcome more conservatives and more discord because they want ratings. Fox News is not a real news station. They are an entertainment network, and they found a long time ago, if you spew hate and you spew hate toward minorities and you uplift white people in a pseudo-nationalist state-run program, you will get plenty of advertisers wanting to come and sell their shit on your network to these old, scared white people and these token black folks that think they're, they should be in the house with Massa. But how do we stop it? We stop it when we how do we stop the discord? How do we actually regain public trust? You must speak from the facts. You must fact check. You must do all of these things to ensure an area of journalistic integrity, because we used to have that. The Tom Brokaws, the Walter Cronkites, Peter Jennings. We used to have George Stephanopoulos along many moons ago. Even Oprah had journalistic integrity before she went entertainment. We had so many individuals that literally that manned the news desk at CNN, at ABC, at CBS, NBC, and various other stations. We had journalists and still journalists out there, still doing the work, we're reporting only the facts and allowing you to make up your own mind. The problem is when you start letting wolves into the hen house, that hen house is no longer a hen house. It is now an area of discord and disarray. And unfortunately, CBS News in the next couple of months is going to start looking like Fox News or CNN, one of the two. And trust and believe, you don't think Taco's not trying to think about ways of trying to get an ABC or NBC, because he tried the New York Times and it didn't go well. But trust and believe, that's not the end of it. The only way we can increase journalistic integrity is that we honestly need to go back to fact checking, to reporting just the facts, at the same time, let the evidence speak for itself. That's how we beat it. But we're going to go move on to our Feel Good segment, because usually how the fact we got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes make use of faith in humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday. We're trying this on a happy note and good positive vibes. I love to see young Black entrepreneurs. especially one that sees a need and fills it. And this young woman is definitely helping out with hair care products that, are hard to get in some areas, but she's doing so through the ease of vending machines. It's actually a great business plan.
So now to an entrepreneur with the hope to bring hair care inclusion to students across the country. Almost a year ago, Chantel Francis launched Hello Beauty on her college campus, a vending machine that dispenses beauty and hair products. She got the idea after having difficulty finding Black hair care and beauty products in her area. Now she hopes to bring her machines to campuses across New York and eventually the country. And Chantel joins us now for more. Thank you so much for being here. You said that you felt that your campus wasn't inclusive when it came to beauty and hair care products that were offered. You often had to drive long distances to get what you needed. So tell us about where the idea for vending machines came from.
I just think putting a vending machine in a space, it made it more accessible and convenient for students that are really busy and on the go, have all these classes, have all these campus clubs. And why not put it in a space where you can have a one-stop shop and everyone can just grab and go and be comfortable and feel seen at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine what it would have been like for me if my college campus had had some of these. So talk to me about why it's obviously important for every student to have what they need and to feel seen, but especially for Black students to have the culturally relevant beauty products easily accessible.
Yes, it's super important to have them on campus, especially if you're going to schools that are PWIs and don't necessarily know what you need.
Yeah.
So for Hello Beauty, it's bringing the service to campuses that don't necessarily really know what's going on, know how to service to their demographic.
Yeah.
So
you are a young entrepreneur and your journey has not been without challenges. It took you about 2 years to secure your first machine. So tell me about that process and what you've learned about resilience along the way.
I think that what got me where I am today is the patience. So it started when I was 2022. I was sophomore. I did a pitch competition on my campus.
Oh, wow.
Essentially letting people know, like, here's an idea for you guys. There is a small community that you guys aren't catering to yet. So why not bring something? Our campus's nearest beauty supply store or convenience store is like 40 minutes out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And for a student, like you said, with busy schedules, like how do they make time to do that if they have a car, all of that?
So it was really hard and challenging to take care of yourself and do what you need to do. So essentially, once I did the pitch, I didn't win the first year. So I went again. I did it the second year. And the SBDC helped me out a lot. I met a woman named Gina, and she was able to guide me through the process because I knew nothing about owning a business or starting one. I didn't know what an LLC was. I didn't know how much time and paperwork, even the financial aspects of it. It was like step by step.
Huge learning curve, yeah.
Everything was from scratch. So now I'm here and then I'm grateful. And now Hello Beauty is in 3 campuses, hoping to expand more. And yeah.
Oh, that is fantastic. And you say that you also learned that going 24/7, that just isn't sustainable, despite many early entrepreneurs having that mentality. Talk to me about that learning curve.
So 24/7, especially now, is not realistic for me, especially because I had graduated. At first, I was a part-time entrepreneur, so I was working a full-time job and then trying to balance Hello Beauty at the same time. And it made it really difficult to take care of my mental health, to take care of my job, and even like try to spend time with my family. And
there's only 24 hours in a day.
So it was a lot. What I learned was have one goal and stick to it and just focus on that goal, and then the rest will come. So I knew that I wanted Hello Beauty to be, I know Hello Beauty is important to me. So yeah, I just kept going.
Good for you. That resilience and all that you've learned so far, it's still just the beginning. And I hope that you're so proud of yourself because it's a really cool story. Yeah. Thank you for being.
And I thought that was pretty cool because imagine, like you said, you're a college student trying to get ethnic beauty products. And let's be honest, in some of these areas, they don't have them, or they're farther away. And this young lady, this young business entrepreneur, has just started her own business, a beauty supply vending machine on college campuses. I just thought that was pretty freaking cool. And I love to see someone take an idea and actually make that idea into a reality and basically be their own boss. You'd love to see it. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. Thank you all for watching, for liking, for when this is up and running and live. Thank you all for commenting. I, from the bottom of my heart, cannot say it enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I would ask that you like, share, and subscribe to get wrong show. How the Frack we got here on all socials. I'll get to that momentarily, but some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. Shout out to APR TV. Why? Because How the Frack we got here can be seen on APR TV along with other shows. You can catch them on the Roku channel store or on the Amazon Fire TV app, but definitely check them out at APR TV. Also, BlurStation.com. I can't say enough, guys, about this streaming site for content made by us for us to enjoy. $10.99 a month to stream Blur Station. Go to BlurStation.com, hit the join now button, and log in and lock in. Again, it is the content for us, the place that you can actually feel at home and at ease. At the same time, you can still get on the ground floor to actually get a piece of the action. They explain more in the Affinity membership, but definitely check it out. Also, runforoffice.org. You see me guys talk about this all the time. You want to know how the crazy ones did it? This is how they did it. How they signed in, give their address. It actually takes you the process of how you can basically get your name on the ballot, whether you want to serve nationally or locally. This site can help you do that. But definitely check out runforoffice.org. And as I said before, guys, on YouTube, How the Frack we got here. You can definitely find us there. You can like, share, subscribe to the notification button so you'll be notified anytime a new show is uploaded. I would certainly appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Also, my other show, the Get Bit Podcast, also the GB Podcast. If you can also find that on YouTube as well. Simply type in the GB Podcast with the first thing that pops up. Like, share, and subscribe as we talk all video games, comics, mangas, and everything else in the world of blurs and nerds that happens during that week. But definitely check us out there. Also, guys, my shows can be found on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from. The audio version of that can be found there. Definitely like and share on Spotify, on Apple and Google Podcasts. I would certainly appreciate it. That being said, also my own personal one, Black_Spartan615. You can definitely follow me there as well on Instagram. Just don't make it weird. I don't want to have to start blocking people. Outside of that, guys, don't doom scroll. I know a lot of stuff in this world is going on that's crazy right now, but please stay off your phones, off the doom and gloom. Go outside, go enjoy nature. The leaves are turning, which means fall is finally coming. Goodbye, summer. May you go where you should have gone, back to that sun and that hellscape. I'm not a summer person. I'm just going to be honest. I'm a more fall person. But go outside, enjoy nature. Go hang out with your friends. Call and text, see how they're doing. Simply put, get out of your own headspace and get into something that makes you laugh, that makes you smile. Protect your peace. Protect your inner strength. That's what matters. At the same time, guys, please get active. I can't stress this enough. Get active in your communities. Get active with the people that are trying to basically be in these offices because, as I said before at the beginning of this podcast, yes, there is a shutdown and Republicans and senators taken care of, but not the essential workers. And there's just something very, very wrong with that. That being said, the last thing I see about How the Frack we got here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information to allow you to make up your own mind, but we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past, making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to be the federal governor of the Reserve, electing our first Black woman to hopefully be the first to be called Madam President. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doing to repeat them. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go about our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we'll all get through this. Love, protect, respect each other, and live long and prosper. Yes, I'm a Trekkie. Peace.